Welcome to this video about how to do ticketing with Qlik Sense and .Net. The first thing we will do is to go into the QMC and export the certificates. Click on Certificates and then add the machine name. Click on the button Add Machine Name and type in the machine name, in this case Windows 2012. Then we need to provide a password for the certificate. Confirm this and export the certificates. Now the certificate is exported and we can copy the file path as so and find it in a File Explorer. Open the File Explorer and paste in the file path that we just copied. Then open the Windows 2012 folder and copy the client.pfx file. That is the certificate that gives us access to issuing a ticket. Let's go back to the developer machine and paste in the certificate. I then double-click on the certificate so I can install it on my machine. Click Next, and on the next page, type in the password we created earlier when we created the certificate and press Next. Select the following store, the Personal Store. And if you move this to an IIS, you need to make sure that the identity running the app pool for the website has it in the Personal Store as well. Otherwise, this code will not work. When that is done, we can continue installing the certificate. Keep pressing Next until it is finished. The import was successful, and now we are ready to go into the virtual proxies. Go back into the QMC and on the left-hand menu, select Virtual Proxies. Here we will create a new one which will be used as an endpoint for the ticket. We will call it Custom and use a prefix which we call Custom as well. We need to give it a specific session cookie header name, x-click-session-ticket. And then we want to add a load balancing node. Now we are ready to apply this, so go ahead and press Apply in the bottom left corner and confirm this dialog by pressing OK. We will see that we have a new menu item that is displayed called Associated Items. Under the Associated Items, click on Proxies. Click on the link button in the bottom and select Central. Now we have linked it and the dialog tells us to refresh the QMC. So press Refresh QMC and we are done with the virtual proxy for now. Now we are ready to go into Visual Studio and create a new project. I will create an ASP.NET application and call it Ticket Test. On the next screen, select an empty ASP.NET template, and since we don't want to host it in the cloud, deselect Host in Cloud and press OK. Now we are in .NET, and we'll right-click on Ticket Test and select Add New Item. The new item we will add is a web form which we call Login, and then click Add. Next, we can look at the design, but for now, we don't want to do any design, so let's just find the code behind it. Go to the Solution Explorer and open login.aspx and then login.aspx.cs. Here we have the code behind, so the first thing we will do is to go to Tools and the NuGet Package Manager. In there, open the Package Manager console and type in install-package qlikauthnet and hit Enter. In order to use this in the code, we need to type in using qlikauthnet and a semicolon. Now go ahead and take the page load snippet provided with this video and replace the page load in the code here. Here we have the new page load code, and we will try to build it to see if it can compile, and in this case, it was successful. Let's try to run it, and we will most likely see an error message when we arrive at the screen. This is fine for now. It says, please don't access the authentication module directly. Use a virtual proxy instead. That is because the proxy REST URI was not a parameter to the query string. When it is not a parameter to the query string, this code writes out the text that we see in the error. Copy the URL and go back to the virtual proxy we created earlier in the QMC named custom. Click on Authentication on the menu to the right, and in the Authentication Module Redirect URI, paste in the URI we copied earlier. Go ahead and apply it. And what happens now is that if you are getting into this virtual proxy and you are not authenticated, then you will be redirected to the web page you have entered in here. So let's apply it, and now we are ready to test it. Before we run it, let's look at this. We are coming in with a new ticket where the user directory is Qlik and the user ID is called Demo User. So we should be able to see that in the top of the hub when we have issued the ticket and redirected back into the hub. The build is running, and that is fine. Go to the QMC and change the URL to Windows 2012/custom, which was our prefix for the virtual proxy. Now I am not authenticated on this virtual proxy. It will actually take me through the .NET code, authenticate me, and take me back to the hub using the new ticket. Here we can see that we have Demo User and Qlik at the top, and those are the exact credentials we provided as the username and user ID. We can also see here that we can provide groups as a list separated by a semicolon, and that will create 3 attributes called group. Paste the values in, and underneath you can see that we have an email attribute coming in as well with the ticket. The beauty of this code is that you don't have to tell where your Qlik Sense installation is, because that is coming in with the proxy REST URI in the parameter, so the system knows where to take you back when the ticket is issued. In this way, it is very easy to get started without having too much coding. Let's stop the code, mark all the code, and then move it out in a separate method. I will then right-click on it and click on Quick Action. From there, I will split it out in its own method and call it getTicket. I will then remove the check for the proxy REST URI parameter that we have here. The next thing we will do is to go to the design of the form. So let's go ahead and click on Login and drag in a button and double-click on it. Then I am typing Get Ticket from the button. I can skip the page load Get Ticket because we only want to get the ticket when we click the button we just made. Now we are ready to test it again. So compile this, run it, and push the button. Nothing happened when I pushed the button, and that is because there is nowhere to take me back to, and it is not initiated from the virtual proxy. This is not possible at this point, but we will change it later, and we will have to start with the virtual proxy. I will clear my browser data so I don't have a session cookie, just to make sure that we don't run into any problems. I will then go back to the Windows 2012/custom and change the URL to only have custom. Now we will instead end up at the button page, and if we look at the URL in the top, we can see that we have the proxy REST URI. This is what tells the system where to go back to when we click on the button. Click on the button, and because we started with the virtual proxy, we are now coming back to the hub without providing any additional information. So you can have your login form there or whatever else you need. Doing this is very easy and flexible, but let's go back to Visual Studio in case we don't want to start with the virtual proxy. If we don't want that, we need to tell it where the Qlik Sense installation is, and I have 3 lines of code that are rimmed out that show how this is done. Now we are providing that information rather than getting it from the URL, and we will change the virtual proxy name to our virtual proxy name, which at this point is custom. When you do it like this line will return a string with the ticket, and we also need to change the method to return a string rather than a void. On the get ticket, we put that into a string as well. Let's call that string ticket. On the next line, we will change the button text to be the output of the get ticket. Compile and run this, and when we click on the button, we expect to see the return value from the ticket request in the button text. Then click on it, and we see Qlik ticket equal to, and the ticket returned. In this case, we are not taken back to the hub, and we will need to construct that ourselves. Let's stop debugging there. Move down the code and create a new string that will be the redirect URL. I will type in the host name or the domain name for my Qlik Sense installation. It could be in a web config file, so you can move this from environment to environment easily. In this case, we will hard code it. http://Windows 2012 and my virtual proxy named custom, and then I need to add the ticket. The last part is then to redirect to the constructed URL. This is done with the response redirect, and once we are done with that, we compile again. When we run it, we will get the ticket and be redirected into the Qlik Sense hub. Click the button, and as said before, we get the ticket and are redirected right into the hub. This is how you can do ticketing with Qlik Sense and .NET. In as little as 20 minutes, you can set it up and test it if you have your Sense installation in place. Remember that you need to have the certificate in the Personal Certificate Store for the user running the website code. That user is typically different when you develop and when you implement it on an IIS. So you need to make sure that you go into the MMC and install the certificate on the identity of the user running the app pool running the website. When that is done, everything should be fine and ready to go. That concludes this video. Thanks for watching.